This is going to be my preview for the Lions' Week 6 visit to Tampa Bay to take on the Bucs and their impressive defense. Fast, physical group of guys. I want to get right into the film here in a moment, but I have a little bit of a lead-in. We got 236 Lions offensive plays charted and labeled in the database. Credit to Josh. Again, I want to constantly give him a shout-out. It's made a lot of things possible in terms of creating content, so he's been helping enter the data. It's amazing. We've got a shared document for you, for Lions fans to take a look at. There'll be a link in the description. I'll post it up there in the premiere that provides personnel-based data that's organized, 11 personnel, and then the second tab I think is 21 and 22 personnel, and then the third one I think is 12 and 13 personnel. Additionally, I think we've provided some data there for first downs. I'd like to share it by third downs eventually. I'm also going to talk about formations in this video before we get to the Buccaneers defense. So there'll be a little bit film heavy. I got 18 Lions plays here to show you and talk about some of the data that we're seeing. Try to provide this information to people in my Patreon or in my Discord and give them access to it for Ravens fans. And as I've created more Lions content this year, I've tried to do the same. So check that shared document out. Use it if you need to. If you create content, then go right ahead and take that. But of course, you can go to the NFL website and find down and distance stuff. But I try to give you personnel, play concept, direction, and some little notes there that may be anecdotal, but give you an idea of what maybe the offense is trying to do. So we're going to get first to some Lions details. The first thing I want to do is go over some formation. So we're going to talk about bunch. Under center bunch is a big element for Ben Johnson's offense. Most teams that are in bunch, I should say most often when you see it, it's going to be in the shotgun. Ben Johnson is under center ace 21 out of the 31 times he's in bunch. So we, in our database, don't have every play. I think we're missing probably 60% from the Seahawks game, and it looks like 2 or 3 possessions from last week's game. So I'll try to catch up on those. But under center bunch is a big formation for Ben Johnson. It's what he uses, I think, one of the things he uses to weave the story together for a whole game. I'll use an analogy here in a moment for how I think Ben Johnson calls plays. Conceptually, I don't think he's thinking about it, but 31 plays out of bunch, 16 runs, 13 passes. So, and I think you got 1 pass scramble. So basically 16 runs, 14 passes, 14 called passes. Mostly an 11 personnel formation. Look in the document and you can see it for yourself, where you see, the personnel is like the 3rd or 4th tab, something like that. You can see the name of the formation and everything. And if you look at it yourself, you'll see out of the 31 iterations of bunch, he's in 11 personnel primarily. I think it's 24 or 25 times out of bunch, he's in 11 personnel. What are the run concepts that we've got? Well, you've got a couple of run concepts that are interesting. This one is just your standard outside zone stretch. Sometimes it's with motion. Sometimes it's against motion. This is actually a 12 personnel iteration of the bunch formation. So what I mean when I say that is 1 tight end up to the top, 2nd tight end down here, and they're running the stretch to the 3 receiver side. Kind of standard. You're running it to the side where there's more receivers. And also the ball's in the middle of the field. So usually the tendency is to run where there's more receivers when the ball is in the center of the field. But Ben Johnson is a guy who tries to actively break those tendencies. This is a play that I'm going to show you that the Saints ran against the Bucs recently. I would call it Jill, duo, whatever, but I'm talking about the edge blocking component. Basically what I'm describing when I say Jill or Jack, which I'll show you I think here in a moment, is what the outside receivers are doing from a compressed split, from a compressed formation. So it's a downhill run concept, okay? I think you got a double here, and then those guys are going to combo up. But watch what St. Brown is doing. He's kind of folding inside of Laporta's block. I think it's Laporta, maybe it's Brock, right? Yes, Laporta. He's folding inside. That's the Jill element, where you have an insert by someone who's lined up wider. I've talked about this in a video that I did about Ben Johnson's offense in the offseason. Jill is an outside guy inserting. Now everything's flowing to the top side of the screen for us. Everything's flowing to the Lions' left. So it's harder for Amon-Ra St. Brown to get in there in terms of insert anywhere. And look, where he inserted was actually on the opposite side. Montgomery read it different, went to the front side, the strong side, where the bunch was for a 5-yard gain. Another outside zone stretch. Now this one's tagged with the motion, so it's attacking to the 1 receiver side, away from the bunch, away from where you have the majority of the receivers. You get the end zone angle on this one as well. Ball's in between the hashes. bunch is to this side, it is 11 personnel. It's not always motion to the one receiver side indicates the play is going over there. That's the thing about Ben Johnson is he's created balanced formations in terms of run-pass balance, in terms of directional balance, conceptual balance. The timing is different. He's just he's a brilliant offensive coordinator, fun to watch. The outside zone stretch, you've seen it to the bunch out of 12 personnel. You've seen it away from the bunch, motioning a St. Brown across. I think it's an 8-yard gain by Knight or McKnight, who I think is now out for the year, unfortunately. All right, also some big play action pass concepts, and it fits with Jared Goff. Everybody's talked about that. He's a good play action under center quarterback. So it's a good tandem, a good pairing, if you will, with Ben Johnson. You got the same motion that we saw on the previous play, jet motion across from the outside receiver. Play action is going to be 21 yards to Reynolds down in what I've called zone 4 before. People have different names for it, but basically it's just a second level zone in between the top of the numbers and the hash. Reynolds is bringing this in. Goff is already, prepared to throw the football, 21-yard gain. So what's Ben Johnson do? Out of each formation, he gives you a lot of things to think about. He weaves them together brilliantly over the course of the game. My comparison for him is a great author, and it's probably not going to work great, but if you've ever read a really good book where there's 3 or 4 or 5 stories going on at one time across different, maybe even time periods, but different places, and then at some point during the book, the author weaves those stories together. That's what I would compare Ben Johnson's use of different formations to. Each formation is a different character in the book or a different storyline, if you will, that then gets weaved together whenever he wants it to exploit what the defense is doing. Under center, boot back to the bunch side. It's bunch right ace. When I say ace, it could be labeled as under center sometimes, but it's the boot is back to the bunch side, where the strong side is. And how can you do this? How can you make this a viable option? Well, you have to run the ball to the one receiver side enough to actually make the defense think you will run it over there. And over the course of a season, I know that Ben Johnson intentionally makes sure that there's directional balance in each formation so that the defense has to stay honest. So the defense has to protect both sides of the field and not just overload the side where the bunch is. Last one I think is a sail concept to Montgomery. You got a sail flood, whatever you want to call it. Complete to Montgomery downside. One of my favorite plays because he's got a ton of plays that get the ball to the running back. Run concepts, right? And he has plays in every formation that get the ball to each player. So along with run-pass balance, directional balance, conceptual balance, you also have personnel usage balance, ball distribution balance. He's getting the ball to multiple players, and I think that's one of the ways that he does a great job of selling to players, hey, you have to block. We've all heard that saying, no block, no rock. You have to block in order to play a role in this offense. Look, there's multiple guys that touch the football. I want to touch on some other formations. I briefly touched on bunch. I want to give you guys at least 3 formations to think about. Is it specific to the Bucs? No, it's not. But this is somewhat of a conclusion, meaning we've got most of the data in. Like I said, 236 plays through 5 games, so we clearly don't have all of them. I think about 74% of offensive plays are in there. And I just want to give you the data and see if you like it. You can compare it to you can compare this video to the data that's in the shared document. Like I said, there's a link in the description. All right, second one, twin slot. So the twins are here. Slot is here. Slot means there's a tight end tightly lined up, thatched to the right tackle or the left tackle. You'll see iterations of both. We've got 30 plays. There are 3 variations of this. There's under center, which is what you see here. Then there's A gun and B gun. It is primarily an 11 personnel formation. In fact, I think it's all 11 personnel except this one. You got Gibbs and Montgomery on the field with Brock Wright, so it's a 21 personnel, but it's no fullback. It's 2 tailbacks on the field. 15 runs and 14 passes, so very balanced in terms of run-pass. But this particular iteration of it, the one I'm showing you right now, under center, is not. It's 10 runs and 5 passes. It makes sense, right? You got the quarterback under center. Most of the time, you've got 3 receivers on the field. In this case, you got Gibbs. They're running the football when they're under center more so, and then when they're in the shotgun, they're throwing the ball more. Makes sense, right? The one I just showed you is the jet with the zone opposite against the flow of the jet. This one is wham trap. You've all seen this one since week 1 multiple times. It isn't perfectly clean. I mean, Sam Laporta does a nice job, but it isn't extremely clean in terms of how it's blocked. There's not a huge gap there like you saw, I think, against the Falcons in week 3, down near the red zone. And I did another video, obviously, about when Ben Johnson normally calls this. It's normally late in games once they've conditioned the defensive line to attack. It might be even second and long or third down. But under center, twin slot, mostly an 11 personnel formation. When you're under center, it's heavy run. 66% run, 33% pass. 10 out of 15. Additionally here, you've got, again, consistent usage for Goff. Under center, giving you a formation that is run heavy. A little bit of a mistake here between Montgomery and Goff. And then play action. You got the post, the dig, and the under. And in this case, he hits the dig. Raymond for 23 yards. The game they played without St. Brown, obviously. Goff is comfortable in the under center play action game. The run game perfectly complements his skills, or his skills perfectly complement the run game. The Bucs are very good against the run. So I think that's going to be an interesting element to this. Showing you formations to bring this to your awareness that this is what we're doing. And I have had people say they'd like access to the database. We'll make that happen through the Patreon. I'll make sure that because that is a part of what the Patreon is. Little short toss for 6 yards to Montgomery against the Panthers, trying to give you guys the end zone angle view of some of this stuff so you can see the blocking schemes. I'm only breaking down parts of the plays. I'm really trying to show you the fact that we have a lot of data entered. And we're trying to keep up with Ben Johnson's offense in terms of what he's doing, when he's doing it, why, and where. It's difficult to do because he's super prepared, and he seems to be a guy who likes to throw people off. All right, you got shotgun twin slot. Still same formation. Twins are a little bit wider than the first one I showed you. There's the slot. So we would call this twin slot B, meaning the running back and the tight end is on different sides from each other. Twin slot B, more heavy on the pass. I think it's 9 passes and 5 runs. So when he's in shotgun, it's more pass-based. It kind of makes sense. I think that Ben Johnson is one of those guys that likes to have the chalk last. And also I think he does a brilliant job of providing so many formations that it's got to be difficult for defenses to track during the game. Coaches can think they prepare them during the week for certain formations, but he gives you a ton of them. This is 12 yards, 11th possession of the game on a 1st and 10, down. Big completion to Reynolds out of the shotgun. Goff is very good under center and in the shotgun. Last one, I think, for twin slot is going to be Laporta. Starts out as bunch or trips to one side. Bring Laporta across. So the version that you got here is twin slot B. Tight end to the left, running back to the right. For the system that I know, terminology I know, that's B. If they were on the same side, that'd be A. Laporta over the middle, big gain. I don't know why that one freezes up. It does it constantly. So one more formation to go through. Actually, I forgot one thing. I think I mentioned it earlier, but this formation is 98% 11 personnel. You did have that first iteration against the Chiefs where Gibbs and Montgomery were on the field, making it 21 personnel, but it's almost all 11 personnel out of this formation. Most of the rest of the formations that Ben Johnson shows are multiple in terms of personnel usage. He gives you multiple personnel groups within each formation. So there's overlapping fields of data to consider as a defensive coordinator, and trying to get a handle on it is very difficult. It would probably require a 30-hour weekend by me to do so. Actually, I got one more, out of twin slot. This is twin slot A. Big throw to Reynolds up the right side, 27 yards last week against the Panthers. The last thing that I'm going to go over as far as the Lions offense is actually not a formation. It's going to be a backfield alignment. There's a lot of people who say, "Oh, the I formation is dead." Not to Ben Johnson. We have 18 total plays of I formation, be it slot I, wing I. You'll see some ram and lion. Ram and lion means if it was lion, instead of fullback's feet being here, fullback's feet would be fullback's feet will be a little bit to the left. I'm doing this all in one recording, so if there's any editing mistakes, my apologies. I actually don't edit it in this case. That would be lion with the fullback offset, off the midline, away from the midline. Ram would be the fullback to the right of the midline. 18 total plays, quarterback's under center, and you can imagine that it's a heavy run. Play action pass has been big. Goff is 5 of 6 passing for 87 yards out of the eye in our 18 plays that we have. I'm sure there's other iterations of it, other plays that we just don't have because it requires me to manually save the plays and then Josh and myself to label the data. So there's a significant amount of work to bring you the data. So please let us know if you appreciate it, number one. But number two, it's out of the eye. And the play action pass, I mean, it's hitting 6 pass plays, 87 yards. What they're trying to do is they're trying to get those guys flowing, the second level defenders like you see boxed off there. They're trying to get those guys flowing and then throw it over top of them into the space that is vacated. And in this case, Reynolds on the deep curl, deep comeback, 33, 34 yards, something like that. Kabinda, I know, has been out or injured, so they've occasionally gone and done this out of 12 personnel. So it basically, some people confuse personnel with formation. Here you have 2 tight ends on the field, 12 personnel with 1 running back. But this is a 21 personnel formation. So the way that you would classify it is personnel 12, and then name the formation, whatever the formation is named in your system. And if you don't have one, then it's a good thing you're listening to my channel because I'm trying to provide that to people so people have a terminology to use because on the broadcast, they don't ever talk about it. Another play action. This one is Marvin Jones. Good to see him get involved last week. 16-yard gain. Goff is quick. His fakes are exceptional, even when him and the running back are not on the same page. It still gets people moving forward, so you can run over concepts or in routes over the top of the second level, in front of the third level, the DBs. All right, so let's get to some more information and data before I talk about the Bucs. I'm not trying to draw large-scale conclusions about Ben Johnson's offense by showing you the data and talking about formation. I'm just trying to bring it to your attention. If you enjoy it, let me know. If you don't, forgive me for taking 12 minutes to do so. But what I am trying to do is show you the complexity of what he's doing, how each formation has different versions of it, A-gun, B-gun, or under center, sometimes pistol, but it's very rarely used. What does that do? I think it can slow down defenses that are fast and physical. Well, here come the Bucs. They're a worthy challenger, for real. Most of the time, I would watch 2 to 3 games of a defense if I'm trying to do a preview. I only watched one. That's all I needed to watch. They tackle well. They're fast, but not overwhelmingly so. They're very physical and sound, if you ask me. They've only played 4 games. So when you hear that they have 12 sacks, the Lions have 14, keep in mind that's in 4 games, so 3 sacks per game. Also, another significant factor is they have 6 interceptions. I think their level of play through 4 games speaks for itself. They're very active. They surround the football. This is a worthy challenger to this Lions offense. On the road, it'll be a difficult matchup. Bucs are only allowing 16.5 points a game. Eagles did score 25 on them, and I thought that was their worst performance. Top 10 in rushing yards allowed. I think 141. I think the Lions average 141 rushing yards per game, and the Bucs only give up 98, 96. So it's a collision. This is a collision course. And that run game is going to be a big determining factor. It'll be a domino that falls one way or the other. But one thing I think I know about Ben Johnson is that he's going to stay with it. They could be averaging 2.5 yards per carry in the first half, and there'll be times where he still runs the football in the second half. He's not going to give up on it because that's who the Lions are. They're dedicated to being balanced, and I think it's a smart investment. As an aside, I think the Lions defense stacks up extremely well here. I just don't have the time to produce 2 previews for this week. I just don't. I got the Lions at 19.8 points per game allowed. Highlighted by that is the fact that they're only giving up 68 rushing yards a game. That's insane. They've also got 5 interceptions, despite dealing with a number of injuries that could curtail other teams. So let's get to the Bucs film. Again, it's only focused on a couple of games. All right, so I'm going to let some of these plays run, just basically highlighting how impactful they can be, causing turnovers. Very timely arrivals by their secondary on certain passes. Their DBs that blitz on nickel blitzes. Their linebackers are exceptional at getting the ball out of there. This is a game, to me, I did say that, all of my film was centered on the New Orleans game. That's true, but I have certain film of some of the turnovers, some of the interceptions. I think these guys are trained extremely well in practice, and they go out on the field and they execute. They're playing at a high level. Ball security, keeping possession of the football and not turning it over is paramount, I think, for the Lions to go down there and get a win, because this is a team, I think, that swarms and attacks the ball when it's in the air. Now, this one I think is actually called back against the Bears. This is a very good defensive unit. I just got finished watching a lot of film of the Titans defense because the Ravens are playing the Titans this week. And then I watched a lot of the Bucs, and you see a lot of similarities. Certain linebackers are going to be to the field, certain linebackers are going to be to the boundary, but both inside linebackers supremely athletic. Obviously, it doesn't even really need to be said. Vita Vea, Shaq Barrett, and other guys are impact players up on the front level. Not trying to scare you, Lions fans, but this is a group that can wreck any team's offense on a given possession. I'm extremely interested to see what Ben Johnson comes out in, what he wants to do on the first possession, what he perceives to be ways to attack this defense, because the one game that I watched against New Orleans, I thought they looked spectacular. Ball's out, possibly, a little bit late here by Fields. Also think you could have a better effort by the receiver, a stronger effort, but great timing is something that you notice. I think that's Winfield. Great timing is something that you notice. I'm a really big fan of Zion McCollum. They're really athletic second-year corner. He's the first draft class that I really started to try to watch draft film and give my opinions on. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. And McCollum was one of those guys, so super athletic. I thought he's going to be an interesting pick. Maybe for the Ravens, he ends up going to Tampa Bay. I think he's blossoming and growing into a better player than a lot of us probably even realized. Last view of this one, I think it's Barrett. Beautiful interception with one hand down near the goal line, but with the Bears backed up. Gets a pick six. They are a dangerous group with the ball in the air. I think that they probably look like a team who does turnover drills all the time. I don't know what your experience is in football, but years when we didn't do turnover drills, we didn't get a lot of turnovers. There just is a correlation there. So let's take a look at their run defense. This is a 1st and 10. First possession against the Saints is an outside zone or stretch concept up to the top side. They're trying to get horizontal. They're trying to make horizontal run lanes develop. Give the running back, in this case Kamara, an opportunity to find a run lane, a seam, and then cut down on it. You got to get up to these guys. You got to get up to these linebackers, if you ask me, and give your running backs opportunities to run downhill, their shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage, and run behind their pads, because those two are athletic, and they're just pretty much going to be everywhere. I think you've got to get up to them, and the Lions offensive line is up to that task. They do that great. This is a play that I kind of chronicled earlier, talking about Lions film. The Lions are way better at cutting this off on the backside. See who makes the tackle here? I think it's number 0. We're going to let this flow one more time, or maybe 2 more times, so you'll see where he comes from. I was talking about Jill, and I actually never did go over Jack. It's Chris Olave coming down here, and somebody's got to cut off this guy here on the backside. The Lions do this by, sometimes they'll fold one guy inside to move up, and then this guy will work to scoop somebody on the backside. The Lions are way better at getting this receiver involved. I showed you the illustration of St. Brown doing it. He's done it a couple dozen times in the last 2 years. It's a wide receiver and an outside linebacker, but you can at least get in front of him, get on the correct side, which Olave is not. And then when Kamara gets kind of bottled up for a second, the second effort, clean run through for number 0. 1 yard gain on the play. They're very good against the run. I think the Lions are better blocking, to be honest with you. You will see that exact play on Sunday. Will the Lions be more successful? I don't know, but I think they're a better blocking team than the Saints in the run game. 21 personnel on the third possession. Another attempt at a horizontal stretch. You get this fullback kind of lead here. Not sure how much of that the Lions are going to do. In terms of full flow, everybody sees the ball tossed out there, so they're reacting fast. Every defense is fast on toss, or at least they should be. I am wondering if you're going to see, not necessarily on toss, but I'm wondering if you're going to see those concepts where Kabinda or whoever's playing fullback goes to one side and then comes back to the other. counter step by the running back and bring it back here. Try to get these guys moving just a half a step or maybe a full step. Now, in this case, what I'm describing, this offensive line would be working in the other direction. And what it basically would do is if those guys half step, three-quarter step, full step, whatever, allow someone to climb up to that level that may not have otherwise have been able to get there because this counter flow, counter steps kind of influence these guys that way. I think that's a concept that you could see, along with that backside cutoff at a bunch, which I showed you on the previous play, and I showed you that the Lions run. I called it Jill zone scheme, basically, but just cut off block on the backside. I think those are two concepts that I think Ben Johnson may run. I could be way off, so we'll find out on Sunday afternoon. You can see the Bucs defense is going to contest every yard. I mean, they're just going to be there. So 4th and 1 on the first possession. Saints are still using Taysom Hill a lot. He's on. It's a direct snap to him. He's actually on, with a Carr in this case. There is some surge here. You see it a little bit. There is some surge from this unbalanced line set by the Saints. So does this bode well for the Lions in some of these short yardages? Maybe. To me, it's more of an opportunity to show that the quick snap may be there for the Lions in some of these situations where it's short yardage, you're inside the red zone. They get up to the line, they snap the ball quickly because the offense knows what they're doing. Defense does not. I don't think you're necessarily looking at a direct snap to anybody, although Ben Johnson, those guys did pull that off last week. This is a run play, but I'm going to use this as a platform to talk about the matchup. Lions are on the road. I know there's people that talk about Jared Goff's stats on the road, and this Bucs defense looks pretty good. I mean, I'm trying to sell you right now that they're pretty damn good. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm really interested in the under center play action game. Putting these guys in conflict. And when I say these guys, I'm talking about the edge defenders, the outside linebackers like Shaq Barrett here. It's a run play, but I'm using this to describe or illustrate, the boot off of it. Putting these guys in conflict and how that can influence the run game and how the way that Ben Johnson has structured the offense provides more conflict than sometimes defenses can handle. Watch who makes the tackle on this. Kamara kind of slips down, but the guy who gets first touch and who gets credit with the tackle is Shaq Barrett. Against the Lions, if he's there, meaning if he's playing it where he can fold down inside and make the tackle, then you know what that'll do, give Jared Goff more time on the play-action pass game. Let's do it the other way. If on the play-action pass, Barrett, veers off to quarterback, then he won't be there for those cutbacks. That's the conflict that I think Ben Johnson has installed from day one. Now I want to talk about one other thing that I don't want to say predicting because it's not cool to say predictions. I don't like gotcha moments or gotcha people, but we've noticed, Josh and I, that Ben Johnson's used a lot of 13 personnel recently. The last 2 weeks I thought I saw it often. 13 personnel under center, so one running back, 3 tight ends. If Sam Laporte has been injured, I know. I'm foreseeing or wondering if we're not going to see a 13 personnel play action pass where they go up top to Laporte or even Brock Wright. I think Brock Wright's an underrated guy, and since Laporte has been there, he's clearly taken a lot of the attention because he's playing great. I'm wondering if 13 personnel play action isn't coming. And early this season, off of a play action boot, maybe even by Goff, where Wright, Laporta, or whoever the receiver is that's on the field have an opportunity to get downfield. All right, some pass game stuff. We'll really do third downs, basically, is what we'll do here. 3rd and 12, first possession for the Saints. We played the Bucs last year, the Ravens. Taysom Hill and Barrett both fell down here for some reason, but they do this a lot with Barrett. It's kind of standard, to the boundary, dropping him out, and then blitzing people from the field to counteract that. So you're creating a 5-man rush, bringing the nickel, bringing one of the inside backers, dropping Barrett all out to account for that. So on third down, like I said, it's 3rd and 12. You're going to get a lot of different coverage variations, and they're going to execute them well. The Lions want to avoid 3rd and 12, period. They do. You get in this 3rd and 12, then they want to make sure, Goff wants to make sure that he confirms what the coverage is and who is where. Now, one thing I found interesting in this game, I think this is Thomas up here. He did have some targets at times, but there was a lot of occasions where they're just looking away. They're not really even looking to him. I don't know. It's interesting to me. how often I felt like Thomas wasn't even part of the read progression. So, to be that as it may, it's third down 12, short gain to Taysom Hill. Him and Shaq Barrett both got taken out and go down. Second possession, 3rd and 9. This looks like two-man to me. Different part of the field, so they're backed up to their negative 22-yard line in terms of the Saints offense. Barrett's on a stunt. This is clearly an opportunity for me to make a play. The ball ends up being dropped. My thought on two-man, here's Barrett on the stunt, by the way. Barrett's here, looping around. I'll pull this back just for a second so you can see where he came from. He's lined up in an irregular position. Normally he would be, outside of one of the tackles to rush, lined up in an irregular position. So if you see that on a third down, watching the game Sunday afternoon, Lions fans, then look for, a possibility of a stunt. In this case, Vita Vea gets there. Carr is able to escape from him and Barrett. An opportunity to make a play. But really, the thing that I would like to say about two-man is I think there's the opportunity to layer some routes if the Lions' offensive line holds up, which they generally do. They're very good. Layered routes, what I'm talking about is, like an under and then something over top of it against this two-man. Giving those safeties something to hold them so that an underneath drag, if you will, that's caught, this safety's not coming downhill to make the tackle before the receiver gets the first down. I'm talking about layered routes from opposite sides of the field, something like that. It can be anything, any concept that layers routes against that two-man, I feel like is going to either A, hold those safeties, or B, make them commit to something and possibly open up a side of the field for a lot of yards after the catch. Third possession, 3rd and 5. Again, you got two-man. And I think, actually, this is a sack, so my apologies. I'm off on my plays here. Shaheed. I think that's Shaheed down there against McCollum. You've got man down here to the bottom side. It's actually a 3rd and 4. My apologies. It's a zone blitz. You got zone up to the top side. Taysom Hill's in the game again. How similar will the Bucs coverages be against the Lions? I'm not sure, but I know they've got everything in. They're blitzing and playing zone to the 3 receiver side, which is up to the top side of the field, the bunch. And then down here to the bottom side, they trust McCollum, to pretty much be in man. That's Thomas down there. My apologies. I said it was Shaheed. McCollum's basically man here with no help over the top. The stunt does eventually get to the quarterback. They play very fast up front. They attack well. I feel like when you get them in attack, when they get you in 3rd down, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, their attack mode is very, very good. It's a zone blitz. They're switch blitzing both inside linebackers, one of them this way, the other one that way. Eventually, they get to Carr. Quite sure that already Ben Johnson has his game plan installed and everything is good to go and streamlined for Sunday. The guy who I really like that I didn't talk, I really like Zion McCollum. I was a huge, it was a huge hope for me that he would end up with the Ravens after last year's draft, and he did not. The Bucs got him. Kind of reminds me of a Tariq Woolen guy. For me, Tariq Woolen was not someone that I had a lot of film of and watched a lot of in that draft, but Zion McCollum to me kind of fits in that mode of an athletic guy, super athletic, can run with receivers deep downfield. I don't know what Ben Johnson thinks of these corners and these DBs, but it looks to me like Zion McCollum is a guy who's exploding on the scene and ready to make a jump in terms of what people think of him. Super athletic profile. It's an extremely balanced defense. I think they represent a great challenge, very similar to the Chiefs, if you ask me, which the Lions passed that test. When they needed to go down and score in the second half, they had a beautiful drive. I think it was late 3rd quarter or early 4th in Kansas City. I think they've got a lot of good football players on this defense. Experienced defensive minds on the staff, and Todd Bowles, obviously. Goff and Ben Johnson's ability to attack specific places is what really interests me about this game. As an aside, I'll be able to watch it. The Ravens play early Sunday morning across the pond, so I'll be able to watch that, do a reaction video, and then watch the Lions game and do a reaction video. So I'm super interested in seeing what Goff and Ben Johnson choose to attack. What do they see as vulnerabilities in this defense? because I watched them and I thought they looked pretty damn good. A win. What does a win here do? Well, it puts you at 5-1, leading up to coming to Baltimore Week 7, which is going to be an amazing game. A loss here, 4-2, then you go to Baltimore on the road is a totally different thing. I mean, the NFL is just a brutal league, and there's a very small margin for error. I would think that the Lions have a great plan to attack this defense. I really enjoyed watching the Bucs defense against the Saints, and I think they're a dangerous group, especially on 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8. And it's going to be the Lions' job, I think, to try to avoid those situations. Having said that, I would look for play action pass early from under center to see if they can get those inside linebackers moving and throw over the top of that second level in front of the third level. Jamison Williams, Khalif Raymond, St. Brown, all of those guys, Josh Reynolds, can make plays down the field. It's a great matchup, a great opportunity for the Lions to go on the road and prove that they're legit, which we already know they are, but the rest of the NFL pretty much needs confirmation or reminder every week. You guys let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. I did want to put it out there that I want to make the database available for Lions fans. It's generally been just something that's for Ravens fans so far. I do have Ravens, 312 Ravens plays on there, so we're organizing and categorizing that in the same manner that we're doing it for Lions film. Our goal is to get 100% of the plays. We're not there. Ravens, I think 92%. Lions 74, 76%, 78%, and that's mostly my fault. If you're interested in that, I'll put up a link for the Patreon in the description, and I'll create a separate Patreon section for Lions fans. Did receive some feedback on that last week, which was very cool. If you commented, my apologies, I didn't follow up. Incredibly busy week for me over the last 7 days. This was a fun one to create. Let me know what you think of the video in the comment section. Let me know what you think of this style preview that's long form and really looks at specific situations where I think the Lions might try to attack. Appreciate you guys' time.